In the noisy city of Bakiri, where the streets never truly sleep and people walk fast with purpose, there lived a young woman named Aduke. She was 24, with skin the color of roasted coffee beans and a walk that made people turn to stare. Her hair was always braided neatly, and her clothes were never out of place. Every morning, she stood in front of a mirror, tied her scarf with precision, brushed her brows, and gave herself a small nod of approval. Aduke worked at National Pride Bank, one of the busiest banks in Bakiri. Her job was to smile politely, count money, stamp documents, and pretend she didn't notice rude customers. She was good at it. She was fast. She was trusted. But what made her apartment truly special were the mirrors. There was a large mirror facing her bed, a long one in the hallway, a tiny round one beside her kitchen window. Aduke didn't just use mirrors to check her clothes. She used them to admire her skin, her calm face, her graceful hands. She said they made her house look bigger, cleaner, more full of light. But if she had known what was coming, she would have smashed every single one with her own hands. One evening, the sun had gone down behind the smoky skyline. Aduke left work late. Her feet hurt. Her mind was tired. She walked fast to get home before the roads became too dark. The sky above Bakiri was gray that day, not because of rain, but from dust and smoke from the roadside grills. She passed the usual shortcut, a narrow alley between two faded buildings. The walls were stained with old watermarks. The air smelled like roasted plantain, kerosene, and something burnt. Then she saw him. An old man sat curled beside a broken wall. His clothes were torn, more whole than fabric. His feet were bare. His skin was wrinkled like dried mango peel, and his hair was full of white curls that looked like cotton wool. He lifted his head slowly, and their eyes met. His voice was rough, like something dry being dragged across cement. "My daughter," Aduke blinked. She wasn't used to strangers speaking to her at night. "Do not gaze into mirrors." "When?" "The clock passes midnight," the old man croaked. "What did you say?" she asked, stopping a few steps away. "Never look into glass when the spirits walk," he said, pointing a crooked finger at her. "At midnight, your image no longer belongs to you." Aduke chuckled, unsure whether to be afraid or amused. "Baba, if you want money, just ask. These stories will not scare me." She pulled out a few naira notes and stretched her hand forward. The old man took the money, but instead of saying thank you, he grabbed her wrist. His grip was thin, but strong. His fingers wrapped tightly around her like dried rope. "I don't want your money," he hissed. "I want you to listen." His voice cracked like thunder. Aduke's heart jumped. Her hand trembled. For a moment, she believed him. Then, just as quickly, she pulled away. "Old people and their scary tail eyes," she muttered, walking off. But she should have listened. That night, Aduke couldn't sleep. The room was too still. Outside, the city mumbled softly, the whine of a motorbike far away, someone shouting about cold zobo, a radio playing from a neighbor's window. She rolled from one side of the bed to the other. She checked her phone. 12:01 a.m. She remembered the old man's warning. "Don't look into mirrors after midnight." "Nonsense," she whispered. But as she turned, her eyes accidentally landed on the tall mirror beside her bed. At first, it looked normal. Her reflection lay there quietly, just like her. Same head, same scarf, same posture. Then it smiled. Aduke gasped. Her real face wasn't smiling, but the one in the mirror was. She sat up straight. The reflection did the same. She raised her hand slowly. So did it. Then she froze. She stopped, moving completely. But the reflection didn't. It blinked once, then tilted its head. Then the smile stretched wider, almost too wide. Aduke's chest tightened. Her body turned cold. She couldn't breathe. No, no, I'm dreaming, she whispered. She looked away. Her heart thumped like a festival drum. Her skin felt too tight. When she turned back to the mirror, everything looked normal again. The face in the mirror matched her own. Still, calm, no smile. She switched off the lamp and curled up under the blanket. Just sleep, Aduke. Just sleep. By morning, she tried to forget. The sun was out. The air smelled of dew and distant. Kakara. She tied her hair and wore her favorite blue wrapper and mustard blouse. She added a necklace her aunt gave her and stepped out the door like nothing had happened. At the bank, the line of customers was already long. The noise never stopped. People shouting, coins clinking, printers whirring. Next, she said loudly, forcing a smile. A middle-aged woman stepped forward. She wore a red scarf and handed. Over an envelope filled with cash, Aduke began counting. Then she heard it. A whisper. It wasn't loud. It was soft, slippery. Aduke? Her hands froze. She looked up. The woman was busy looking at her phone, not even paying attention. Aduke looked around. Her co-worker Temi was busy with another customer. The guard was yawning at the door. No one had called her name. She looked at the computer monitor in front of her. The screen was black for a moment, and in the reflection, her mouth was gone. Her entire mouth, just smooth skin. Aduke gasped and stumbled backward. Her stamp pad fell to the floor. The customer frowned. "Are you okay, my dear?" Aduke nodded quickly. Yes, I'm fine. Sorry." But she wasn't fine. Not at all. After work, she walked to the local market to buy tomatoes and smoked fish. She told herself she needed fresh air. She needed to breathe. But even the market felt different. The sun was melting low when she walked through the loud, colorful market of Bakiri. All around her, women balanced trays on their heads, selling roasted yam, grilled tilapia, and sweet mangoes that made the air thick and sugary. The street buzzed with children chasing each other, men bargaining over tomatoes and horns from passing keks. Aduke moved quickly through the crowd, a woven basket hooked around her arm. She didn't want to be there long. Her mind was still spinning from the strange things she had seen. The whispers at work, the flickering screen, the vanishing mouth. Every mirror she passed now made her uneasy. She paused beside a stall to pick up some oranges. Her fingers touched the fruit, but something else caught her eye. Across the path, under a faded green umbrella, a man was selling mirrors. Dozens of them. Some small and round, others long and cracked, propped against crates and dusty walls. They were all turned outward, all of them pointed at her, like a row of eyes. Staring, her legs locked in place. One mirror stood out. It was larger than the rest, with golden carvings along the edges, like old tribal markings. Its glass was smudged, but clear enough to reflect her. And in that reflection, her face blinked. But she hadn't blinked. A cold chill slid down her, spine like dripping ice. Her hand let go of the oranges. They tumbled to the ground and rolled across the dirt. The mirror version of her was still blinking, still moving. "Madam, you no go by?" The mirror seller called, waving his hand. Aduke turned sharply and walked away fast, not answering, not looking back. Her sandals slapped against the road like thunder. That night she couldn't sleep. By Sunday, Aduke was unraveling. Her eyes were tired and puffy. Her hands trembled even when holding a cup. The strange moments were becoming more frequent and more frightening. Whispers in silent rooms. Faces that smiled when she didn't. reflections that behaved like they had their own lives. She needed help. She needed peace. So she went to church. She arrived early, before the main crowd. The old iron gates of Grace Assembly Church creaked open as she entered, stepping into the cool shadows of the sanctuary. Inside, voices were already rising, people singing, clapping, praying out loud. The drums rolled like thunder. The keyboard hummed like river wind. People lifted their hands high, praising, dancing, shaking. But Aduke felt nothing. No peace, only cold. She sat in the second row, her arms folded tightly across her chest. Every now and then, she looked around quickly, as if someone was watching her. But everyone else was lost in worship. Then the pastor came forward. He was a tall man with a deep voice that rumbled across the church. He took the microphone and began to shout, "Every spirit troubling your soul, out in Jesus' name." "Amen," the people roared. "Every demon hiding in your life, come out. Amen." Louder this time. "Every dark mirror trying to follow you, break and scatter." Aduke's skin erupted in goosebumps. Her chest grew tight. And then her phone buzzed. She pulled it from her handbag. Unknown number. She hesitated. Why would someone call her during prayer? She pressed decline. Then she saw it. The phone's screen turned black, reflective, and her face appeared. Her reflection stared back at her, but she wasn't alone. Standing behind her reflection, in that glassy screen, was a dark figure. No face, just a black shape with arms too long and a mouth open far too wide, like a black hole ready to swallow her whole. Aduke's heart shot into her throat. She screamed and dropped the phone. It bounced on the floor and cracked. The pastor stopped. "Sister Aduke, what is wrong?" She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came. She tried again. Nothing. She raised her fingers to her lips. Her mouth was gone. Completely vanished. No lips, no teeth, just smooth skin. The church twisted. The lights blurred. The room began to stretch. The people around her melted into colors. The air pressed down on her chest like a rock. She tried to cry, but no sound escaped. Then, just as suddenly, everything snapped back. Her mouth was back. The lights returned to normal. The music continued. The pastor was still preaching. Aduke fell to her knees and gasped for air. Sweat poured down her back. She looked around. Number. One else had seen it. Had she imagined everything? She picked up her phone. The screen was cracked. But in the shards of glass, one piece showed a faint movement, a shadow sliding behind her. She stood quickly, heart thudding hard. She couldn't sleep alone that night. She needed someone close, someone she trusted. She called Imaid. Imaid was her best friend. They had gone to university together, shared hostels and late-night meals of iba and groundnut soup. If there was one person Aduke could talk to, it was her. When Imaid opened the door, she looked worried. "You look like you've seen something terrible." Aduke shook her head. "I can't explain. Just let me stay, please." They sat together. In the living room, Imaid made her tea, adding honey and ginger the way Aduke liked it. "Maybe you're just overthinking," Imaid said softly. "Too much stress." Aduke wanted to believe that. She wanted it to be nothing. But then it happened. Again. Imaid had a tall mirror standing behind the couch. It had always been there, part of her decoration. Aduke turned her head by accident and saw something that made her blood turn cold. She wasn't there. In the mirror, she was gone. The couch was there. Imaid was there. But Aduke's body? Her presence was missing. She turned sharply. "Imaid," she whispered. "Can you see me in the mirror?" Imaid chuckled. "What kind of question is that?" She turned to look. and froze. The cup in her hand slipped. It shattered on the floor. Imad's face turned pale. I don't see you," she said in a whisper. "You're not in it." Then they both saw it. A shape began crawling out of the mirror. First, long black fingers, then arms, then a face, stretched and wide, with no eyes and a too large mouth that opened and opened without end. A maid screamed. Aduke grabbed her wrist. "Run!" They rushed into the bedroom, slammed the door, and pushed the wardrobe in front of it. Their breaths came fast. Imaid was crying. Aduke sat with her back against the wall, shaking. Then, knock, knock, a soft knock, like fingernails tapping. A voice slithered through the wood. "Let me in." Aduke covered her ears. The knock stopped. Everything went still. Hours later, when they finally opened the door, the mirror was gone. Not cracked, not broken, just missing, as if it had never existed. That was the last time Aduke visited Imad's home. And she didn't go back to hers either. Not after that night. Not after the mirror tried to reach her. Her heart still hadn't calmed. Her mind refused to rest. She needed a place where one knew her, somewhere she could hide. "I'll stay at a hotel," she whispered. But what she didn't know was that mirrors lived everywhere, even in places you think are safe. The wind was heavy with dust as she stood by the side of the road, her hands trembling. She had called for a ride through her phone app, but her fingers kept slipping, her breathing shallow. She didn't want to go home. She didn't want to go anywhere, really. But she had to be somewhere with people. Somewhere not quiet. Somewhere with no mirrors. Within minutes, a yellow taxi rolled up. The engine rattled like an old tin kettle. The driver was a middle-aged man with a tired face and thick hands gripping the wheel. He looked at her through the open window. "Where to, madam?" She gave him the name of a small hotel across town. Somewhere cheap but safe. Somewhere with no glass. "Enter," he said simply. Aduke climbed in. The back seat smelled like car, freshener and engine oil. She pulled the door shut and sank back, clutching her handbag like it could protect her from the thing following her. As the car began to move, the city rolled past them, streetlights flickering, shadows stretching. Across walls, and puddles from an earlier rain reflecting the sky. But something was wrong. The reflections. Storefront windows they passed no longer showed what was outside. Instead, they showed her, dozens of her. Each reflection was Aduke's face. But their eyes were empty, black and hollow. Their mouths curled up into unnatural smiles. They were all staring at her. She turned her face away. Her throat tightened. Her heart pounded so hard, she could feel it in her teeth. The driver glanced at her through the rear-view mirror. "Madam, you day okay?" he asked, concerned. But she didn't reply. She was staring at the rear-view mirror, not at him, but at herself. And her reflection in the glass was grinning. But her real face? Frozen in fear. Aduke touched her lips. She wasn't smiling, not even close. She shrunk into her seat, fists clenched. The driver kept driving, unaware. She couldn't take her eyes off that mirror. The version of her in it was too happy, too calm, too alive. Eventually, the taxi stopped in front of a faded building with a crooked sign that read, "Sunrise Guest Lodge." The paint was peeling, and the lights inside flickered. But it didn't matter. Aduke jumped out before the car had even fully stopped. "No change," she said quickly, tossing him a few notes. "Wait, madam," but she was already inside. The woman at the reception wore a red wrapper and heavy eye makeup. She looked up from a magazine and raised her brow at the shaking girl. "I need a room," Aduke said, breathless. No mirrors. The woman didn't ask why. She just handed her a plastic key card. 3rd floor. Room 308. Aduke took it and ran. Her sandals slapped up the stairs. She didn't wait for the slow elevator. Her hands fumbled with the door, and finally it clicked open. She entered quickly, locked the door behind her, and looked around. The room was small. A narrow bed, a bedside table, a desk, and 2 lamps. And a mirror above the bathroom sink. Her stomach flipped. She grabbed a towel from the rack and threw it over the mirror. Then she turned the standing mirror by the wardrobe to face the wall. She walked around the whole room again. No other glass, no reflective surfaces. Finally, she sat on the edge of the bed. A deep breath escaped her lips. "Maybe now," she whispered, "I can sleep." And for a while, she did. She woke up with a dry throat. The room was dark, except for the orange glow of the city lights leaking through the curtains. She reached over to grab the bottle of water on the table beside the bed. That's when she saw it, something under the bed. A faint glint of light. Glass. Her stomach dropped. She slid slowly off the bed, her knees hitting the cold floor. She bent down. There it was, a mirror, a small round one, sitting beneath the bed like it had always been there. But that wasn't the worst part. Her reflection was already looking at her. It didn't blink. It didn't tilt. It didn't smile. It just whispered, "Found you." Aduke screamed. The room exploded into chaos. The lights flickered wildly. The mirror began to shake on its own. The bedposts rattled like they were alive. The towel flew off the bathroom mirror and landed in the sink. She grabbed her bag and bolted out the door barefoot, leaving the room behind. She didn't ask for her deposit back. She didn't explain. She just ran. By the next morning, Aduke looked like a ghost. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her scarf was loose and falling. Her voice was hoarse. But still, she went to work. She needed normal. She needed structure. She needed something to hold on to. Inside the bank, people were moving about, counting money, stamping receipts. But as she stepped in, she could feel it. The stares. Colleagues paused mid-sentence when she walked by. One whispered. Another looked down, pretending not to see. Her boss, Mr. Ady, passed by her and gave her a strange look, almost fearful. Aduke swallowed the panic rising in her chest. She took her seat behind the counter and smiled, forced, shaky. She greeted customers, stamped forms, balanced her cash drawer. Everything seemed normal until lunch break. Her friend Temmie walked over, biting her lip. "Aduke, can I show you something?" Aduke nodded slowly. Temmie pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. A video opened. It was footage from the security cameras in the bank from yesterday. It showed Aduke sitting behind the counter, calm, normal. But the glass partition in front of her showed something terrifying. Her reflection. It was moving on its own. It tilted its head while her real self stayed still. It smiled wide while her real lips were pressed together. It stared at people long and hard. Aduke couldn't breathe. "That's not me," she whispered. "But it is," Temmie said. "We all saw it." Before she could say another word, Mr. Ada's voice boomed across the floor. "Aduke, my office, now." She followed him into the glass-walled office. Her hands shook. Her breath came fast. She sat down. He didn't. The room was quiet, except for the soft buzzing of a fly. The blinds were half closed, and the sun slipped through in long, narrow lines. Mr. Ada looked at her, his face full of sadness and confusion. "You're a good worker, Aduke," he said, "but something is happening." "Sir, we've had customers ask to change counters because they said your reflection stared at them without you moving. She opened her mouth to speak. He raised a hand. I don't want to believe it. I really don't. But then I saw this. He pointed to the glass table between them. Aduke followed his gaze. And there, in the table's reflection, her mirrored self was leaning forward, smiling, wide and unnatural. Its head tilted, upside down. Her heart stopped. Mr. Ada stood so fast, his chair flew back. What the hell is that? She turned to him. It's not me, sir. I swear it's not me. But when she turned back to the reflection, it waved, calm, playful. Aduke screamed and bolted out of the room. She ran past the desks, past the guards, past the line of waiting customers, out into the street. Her legs didn't stop moving until they gave out. She fell onto the sidewalk, breathing hard, eyes wild. She had lost everything, and it still wasn't over. Not yet. She had nothing left. Her job was gone. Her peace was broken. And everywhere she turned, her reflection was waiting. Still, when night came, she knew she had only one place to go. Home. Not because she wanted to. Because she had no choice. She stood outside her apartment door for a long time, keys shaking in her hand. The hallway was quiet. Too quiet. A single bulb above her door flickered like it was afraid to stay on. Finally, she turned the key. The lock clicked. The door creaked open. She stepped inside slowly. Her breath came fast. She shut the door behind her and locked it. Click, click. The lights inside the apartment blinked on. Everything looked normal, but she knew better. She stood frozen, her eyes sweeping the room. Then she saw it. On her couch, sitting like it belonged there, was her reflection. It wasn't moving in the mirror. It was outside the mirror now, sitting there calmly, arms folded, legs crossed, head tilted slightly to the side, smiling, waiting. Aduke's chest squeezed tight. She could barely breathe. She had run for days, from her house, from the bank, from friends, from every piece of glass and every puddle on the street. But now, the very thing she had feared had come to wait for her. She stepped backward, slow, her back hitting the door. The air in the room changed. The light felt heavier. The walls seemed to stretch and bend like rubber. The floor tilted beneath her feet. Then, the reflection, still smiling, opened its mouth. But the voice didn't come from its lips. It came from the mirror, hanging on the wall behind the couch. Low, calm, familiar. I think it's time we switched places. Aduke screamed and grabbed the closest thing, a heavy lamp beside the door. With all her strength, she hurled it at the mirror. Crash! Glass exploded in all directions, flying like angry birds. The mirror shattered into 100 shining pieces. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, a sound. A chuckle. Low, deep, too close. Not from the mirror. From behind her. Aduke turned slowly, and there it was, the reflection. Standing now, not in the glass, not on the couch, but behind her. Its smile wider than any human smile. Its eyes were dark and full of knowing. You should have listened, it whispered. The lights began to flicker. Aduke screamed and ran. Out the door, down the stairs, into the street. She didn't care who was watching. Her bare feet slapped the pavement. Her hair flew wild behind her. She didn't know where she was going. She just ran. And then, like a spirit rising from memory, she saw him. The old man, the one who had warned her long ago. He was sitting in the same spot, same old robe, same torn sandals, same eyes, full of sadness. She ran to him, dropped to her knees. "Baba, please," she begged. You warned me. I didn't. Listen, but it's here now. It's real. What do I do? How do I stop it? The old man looked at her, his eyes filled with the kind of pain that comes from seeing something over and over again. You didn't believe me, he said softly. You laughed. I didn't know it was real, Aduke cried. Please help me. The old man reached into the folds of his robe. From it, he pulled out a small round mirror. But this mirror was not ordinary. Its glass was black. So black it looked like night had been trapped inside. Take this, he said. Aduke reached for it, and the moment her fingers touched the glass, a sharp pain shot through her hand. She cried out and dropped the mirror, holding her paw. A symbol had burned itself onto her skin, a swirling mark that glowed faintly, like fire just under the flesh. What is this? She whispered. A seal, the old man said. It will protect you, for now. She picked the mirror up. Again, hands trembling. How do I stop it? How do I send it back? The old man shook his head slowly. You can't destroy it. Not fully, but you can trap it, if you're brave enough. Aduke swallowed hard. Tell me how. You must find a new mirror, he said. One it doesn't know yet, one you haven't looked into. Then, when it appears, you must act fast. And if I fail, she asked. You take its place, he said. And it takes yours. Aduke stood slowly, the black mirror clutched in her hand. Her feet were bleeding. Her mind was spinning. But she had made up her mind. She turned and walked into the night. The glass shop stood at the end of Ebo Street, hidden between a tailor's shack and a fried yam stall. Its windows were dark. Its door creaked when she pushed it open. Inside, mirrors covered every wall. Tall ones, tiny ones, cracked ones. Some with golden frames, some dusty and forgotten. Every mirror held its breath as she entered. An old woman sat behind the counter, her head wrapped in a scarf full of beads. Welcome, she said. Looking for something? Yes, Aduke said softly. A mirror, the old woman smiled. Pick anyone you like. Aduke walked slowly between the rows, her fingers brushing against the cold edges. Then she saw it. A large antique mirror in the corner. Its frame was carved with swirling designs that looked almost like writing. The glass inside it shimmered. Like water, she looked into it. And there, waiting, was her reflection. Already there, smiling, dark eyes gleaming. You can't get rid of me, it said. Aduke's hand shook. She pulled out the black mirror the old man had given her. The reflection tilted its head. What's that? Aduke didn't answer. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and smashed the black mirror into the large one. Crack! The room shook. A powerful wind burst from the glass, throwing Aduke to the floor. The mirrors on the walls rattled violently. The old woman behind the counter screamed and covered her ears. Then, a scream like nothing human. High, loud, piercing. Aduke opened her eyes. Her reflection, the thing, was being sucked into the mirror. It clawed at the glass. It kicked. It screamed her name. Aduke! No, let me out! The mirror cracked again and shattered. Glass flew everywhere. And then, silence. Aduke collapsed onto the cold tile floor of her apartment. Her hands trembled. Her breath came in small gasps. But in her heart, one thought repeated like a whisper. It's over. I won, didn't I? The mirror had shattered. The wind had stopped. The screaming had vanished into silence. And the twisted thing with her face, the one who had haunted her for days, was gone. She lay there for a long time. Then she sat up slowly, her whole body aching. The next few days passed like a dream. Aduke stayed quiet. She moved gently. She didn't speak unless necessary. But with every hour that passed, something inside her began to return. A tiny seed of peace. She cleaned her apartment from top to bottom. Every piece of broken mirror was swept away. Every shard, every sliver, every bit of glass, gone. She wrapped them in old newspaper and threw them deep into the city dump far from her home. She replaced her phone with an older one, no front camera. She tore down her shiny wall clock, got rid of her glossy kitchen tiles. Anything that could reflect her face, she removed it. The old mirror frame that had held the twisted version of her, she burned it in the courtyard, standing there until nothing but ashes remained. For the first time in weeks, Aduke smiled. For the first time, her home didn't feel like it was watching her. And somehow, miraculously, a new job found her. It was at a small bookstore near the edge of Bakiri. No mirrors, no cameras, just shelves of old paper, quiet music, and the smell of worn pages and warm wood. The owner was kind. The customers were polite. The pace was peaceful. Aduke found herself laughing again, sleeping again, living again. She truly believed it was over. Then one evening, just after closing time, Aduke decided to take a walk. The sky was a soft orange, the streets gentle with twilight. Bakiri had slowed down for the night. Mothers called children in from the road. Shopkeepers lowered their shutters. A boy chased a ball past her, giggling. She walked calmly, arms folded, scarf tied neatly around her head. She felt good. She passed by a familiar street corner where a small clothing store stood. It had a wide glass window at the front, the kind that lets you see the colorful dresses on display. Aduke didn't mean to look, but something made her turn her head. Just a glance. Just 1 second. And there it was. Her reflection. It stood inside the window, in the dark space between two mannequins. But it wasn't smiling. It wasn't blinking. It wasn't following her movements. It was just watching, still, frozen, eyes deep like old wells, expression unreadable. Aduke stopped walking. She stared at the reflection. And then, slowly, very slowly, it raised its hand and waved. Not wildly, not happily. Just a simple, slow wave, like someone saying goodbye, or warning you they're still there. Aduke stepped back. Her heart began to thump again. The peace she had rebuilt, the breath she had caught, shattered like thin ice. She turned around and walked away quickly, refusing to look again. She didn't run, but every step felt like it took her farther from safety and closer to something she didn't understand. That night, Aduke sat alone in her room with all the lights off. She didn't sleep. She didn't touch her phone. She didn't even cry. She just sat still, in silence, wondering, did I ever win? Or had she only escaped for a while? She thought of the old man and his eyes full of warning. She remembered the black mirror, the mark on her palm. She looked at her hand. The symbol was still faint, like a scar from a dream. Maybe it would always be there. Maybe some doors, once opened, can never fully close again. And so, if you ever walk alone at night, if you ever catch your reflection not doing what you're doing, if it blinks when you don't, smiles when you're afraid, moves when you're still, then remember this. Some things are better left unknown. Some warnings, no matter how foolish they sound, are worth listening to. And some mirrors are not just glass, but gateways. Once opened, they do not always shut behind you. In our world, we often hear tales passed down from mouth to mouth. Some are light, some are sad. Some are told just to entertain children by the fire. But others, like Aduke's, feel different. They cling to you. They grow inside your thoughts like vines. You ask yourself, Was it real? Could it happen? And maybe that's the point. Not every story needs proof. Not every danger rings a bell before it strikes. Sometimes wisdom hides in whispers. An old man sitting by the roadside may sound crazy, but what if he isn't? A cracked mirror may seem harmless, but what if it sees you back? In villages across Africa, stories like these are not jokes. They are warnings. They are memories of things people saw and survived, or didn't. They are gifts from one generation to the next. And their message is simple. Do not touch what you don't understand. Do not chase what you can't escape. And when the spirit world stirs, be still, be quiet, and listen. Now let me ask you something, dear listener. Where are you watching from? In your community, do people believe in stories like this? Do they warn you not to walk alone at night? Do they tell you to cover your mirrors before sleeping? Do you believe in what cannot be seen, but can still follow? Let us know. Let this tale travel. Let it reach the ears of those who still think everything must make sense. And ask yourself, would you dare look into a mirror at midnight? And if you did, would your reflection blink back? Or would it wait? If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like the story. It helps others discover these ancient lessons. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel for more African folk stories full of mystery, truth, and warning. Your support keeps the old stories alive, stories just like this one, so that what once whispered in the shadows can now be heard by the world.